Okay, so finally, we're going to go through each tab, see what it's showing and the meanings behind the data that it has in it. So we'll start with yesterday's tab, so it does what it says in the tin, and this is going to be a snapshot of how the business did yesterday. So as I said earlier, we're always going to have the KPI tiles along the top. And in this case, it's going to be jumpers, revenue, spend per jumper, so average revenue generated per jumper, spend per jumper excluding parties, so F&B spend per jumper, and then we have the jumpers split between free jumping, parties and toddlers, and this is being compared to the budget underneath. So on the specific page, you can't filter by attended date, you can still filter by park and also product. In the tables themselves, we're always going to have the same layout. So we're always going to have jumpers first with compared to its budget, the variance between those two, and then that variance as a percentage. And then revenue compared to its budget, and the variance, the percentage, and then with spend per jumper, and so forth. We'll then be able to see the splits between each park. And then underneath, we have the estate as a whole in one table. Moving on to jumpers. So we have the exact same tiles along the top. And then in the table, it's a very similar layout. So we have our actual, so in this case, our actual means jumpers with its budget against variance, the percentage. And then we have last year comparisons with the variance and the variance percentage also. Just as a quick one, so the dates that I've put in here, you're able to, well, you can see that there's not any data being pulled through here. And that's because in certain dates that you pull in, we won't have data for. So say if we've only just acquired a park, so Media City, or in other cases where we don't actually have data for the previous year, this will come through as blank. So just as a quick tip, I'd make sure you're always looking at the dates you're pulling through just to see if we do actually have last year's data for that. We then have a graph that's quite good looking for trends. And you can also see that with the orange line, we don't have last year's data for that. And if we were to scroll along, this is where we have it for, and then you'll be able to see. So the previous year would be August of 2023. And then again at the bottom, you have your group table. So revenue follows the exact same pattern. So your tiles with your actual being revenue this time, with your graph and your group graph at the bottom. And it also follows the same for spend per jumper. So again, actual now being spend per jumper against last year with your graph and then your group table at the bottom. So moving on to the 30-day order book. So we have different tiles this time. So we have standard revenue jumpers, spend per jumper, but our order book party revenue percentage is our revenue brought in from only parties and then the percentage of that we have achieved. So we're now on 56%. We then have the jumpers again split out by free jumping parties and toddlers, but this time it's compared to the order book. So instead of being the budget, this is how much we have actually achieved. So this is now 58% of the budget that we have achieved. So in the actual graph, we now have jumpers with the budget are now left to go. And this is then followed by revenue and also spend per jumper and the variance of the spend per jumper. And this follows again with the group estate at the bottom. We then have a specific tab for parties. So now you're able to see a bit more in depth. So you're able to see now classic party jumpers with our jump up and big time jumpers as well for a bit more of an in-depth split. We're able to see our parties split by park as well that we're offering with our group average and the graph to show you individual splits and percentage of those as well. Moving on to park. This is now moving into our 7-day order book. So very similar KPIs along the top, but now you're able to see the dates of the next week along the side here with your jumpers budget left to go, and then our order book percentage followed by revenue, the exact same, and then spend per jumper budget and the variance percentage of that one. And you're able to come in and look in and drill down into the specifics also of those under there. The next one will be your 7-day order book, but in a group. So this will be easy to see as a group total, rather than you can still split out by park here. to look into the specific days, but to have a whole group average and then able to drill down into those here. So when we're looking into why these are blank, this is just because there's nothing being pulled through. So specifically with looking at when you see infinity or none, it just means that there's not any data for it to calculate to bring through. Moving on to our F&B KPIs. So this will be everything to do with F&B. So anytime that you see revenue or jumpers or average transaction, it's all to do with the cafe. So we have specifically our spend per jumper excluding parties. So our average transaction is how many orders are in the cafe by how much revenue is being brought in, and the engagement ratio is how many jumpers are coming to make orders in our cafe, excluding our party jumpers. And we have a table here that's documenting all of these by park. In our products, we're able to drill down the products in the cafe. So we've got the exact same tiles along the top, and we're able to see our products in detail. You're also able to filter on these as well, and then you're able to see your top 10 along the side, or you're able to choose which product you'd like to see in there. Our F&B revenue is going to dig deeper into our cafe revenue. So it'll have, I'll pull the dates out so you can see a little bit better. So you're able to see split by date and year, month and year, our actual revenue with the budget and the variance with last year. So exact same layout as before, and also able to see a graph as well, just to see our trends with the exact same tiles on the top. And our last one is going to be our transaction engagement for F&B. So this is going to be our engagement, spend per jumper excluding parties, and average transaction, and you're able to see that over a few months as well, and for specific parks. So our engagement ratio versus last year, also our average transaction versus last year, and then spend per jumper. So this is more to have a look at trends, and then if you want to look into specific KPIs in those, you'll be able to find it in the KPIs tile here. So that is it for these reports. We are publishing more in the future, and there'll probably be more videos on how to look at those and understand those. But if there's any more questions, do speak to me, so Lottie Hollenby, for any issues or queries. And if you need to have another license for anyone in the park or the central team, speak to myself or Peter Gowlett, and we can sort that out for you. But thank you very much for listening.